Hey everybody, how you doing? It's cold out here. My name is Keith Grant, Stamford, Connecticut. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I am for the Sutton Drive crew from the 70s. My brother Anton, Ronnie Jones, Kane, Davis's Readers, my brother, just about everybody there. We'll kind of wing it. All right, thanks. This here is Hamilton Avenue. It's where I grew up. Didn't look like that back then. Everybody down here now is up in there with their fences and their stone walls for some reason. Coming back around here is where we all grew up on Sutton Drive. The Gelfons lived here. Other neighborhood people we used to play with. Again, with the stone walls, I don't get it. McDougal's, right around the corner there, across the street. Mark McDougal, excellent hockey player. Jumping ahead a little bit, that's what I want to show you about the neighborhood I grew up in and the crazy stuff you did that was fun back then. In the winter time, we used to come over here, throw snowballs at cars, but Anton and Ronnie had the genius idea of making this place over here like a barracks, because it had a wall that you could hide behind as little kids. That little wall right there don't look like much now, but when you're a little kid, you could hide behind that and hit all the cars you want. Not something I recommend now, but you know, we're just going through Sutton Drive stuff and Stamford, Connecticut stuff. Great city to grow up in back then. You know, going downtown, you know, hanging around as you got older. But when we were kids, our parents used to take us to, like, you know, Colony Pizza, Nick's Pizza, Pappas Pizza, all this stuff like that, which I still think is a landmark today for us to go to. But here we are on Sutton Drive, again with the stone walls and the fences. Just want to let everybody know, this was like the best place to grow up as a kid. Here we are with the stupid fences again. Also knowing that on this street growing up, you didn't realize it back then, but it was extremely safe. We had cops on the street as residents. And actually at the end of the street was the chief of police. He lived on the street. Right there, a friend of mine, Bert, lived in there for a while, but that was a Stamford cop back there. I'd like to know what Sutton Drive looks like now, but it looks like crap. Over here, two kids, Kevin and Kathy. Still keeping in touch with Kathy. She's like a sister to me. Things I want to get to about Sutton Drive. This little area here, Ronnie Jones and Anton Soares, who were the leaders of the pack back then, probably had like 20 or 30 kids on the street. It's not big now, but what they did is they took spray paint and they painted a home base here, first, second, and third base over there where the leaves are, and actually baselines, and a home run line. And they actually kept track with Ronnie Jones's father's Little League scorebook. Another thing, too, I want to add. A few parents on this street were coaches of Little League baseball and Pop Warner football. And realizing it now was a great thing. Back then, you just took it for granted. That's my dad, that's my uncle, whatever. But coming back down here to Sutton Drive, we didn't do much on this side of the street for some reason. But, you know, rotor bicycles around the whole street, having races on bicycles, races as, you know, foot races. This is where Craig Shantz used to live. Much different now than when him and his mom lived here. But Craig Shantz was a ballroom dancer, professional ballroom dancer as a young kid. And he was on, I believe, American Bandstand and Soul Train. Over there were the Luglisis. We played with them, all three brothers. That's my old uncle's house. When he passed away and moved out, the Saboris moved in. Two girls that used to hang out and play with us also. Freddie Schwartz, same thing, used to hang out, play with us. Over here was the Wynn's house, Kane and Tracy. Played with them extensively all the time. Mr. Wynn, again, was a coach of baseball and football and an umpire. And another cop, not in Stamford, but Darien. Darien, very, very decorated police officer for the city of Darien. I honestly forget his name. He played with us also, a few years older. This house here is the Malloy house. Chipper and Laura Lee. Again, Mr. Malloy, coach of football. And if I remember correctly, I think when he was younger, I think he played for the New York Jets. I'm not positive on that. This is the dead end down there at the end of Sutton Drive. The chief of police lived down there. A few more kids that lived down here also and played with us. Liz. Again, this part of Stamford, this part of Sutton Drive doesn't look like much, but this was another imaginary baseball field where Ronnie Jones and Anton Soares, our leaders, painted a home plate here, first, second, and third base over there, and over there by Mr. Wynn's house was the home run line. Coming up, another Stamford police officer back then lived right in that house there, Guy. Here on the right-hand side, the Davis house. Again, Mr. Davis and his brother, Art, were coaches as we were growing up of football. There was Danny. Danny was a tough kid, boy. Nothing bothered him. Older brother, Bobby. Bobby and Chipper were like back then, the all-stars of all sports. And if I remember, Bobby Davis did something rather amazing. It was almost like the 50s. Him and a few of his, all-star buddies. I think it was Dennis Darling, Chipper down there, Juan Quinones, Scott, and a few of the other big shot sports guys. They actually started a little club, not a gang, a club of all the good guys. They call the Stamford Deans. They used to walk around with their red satin jackets. It was cool. It was almost like a throwback of the 50s. But that's what I mean about growing up on Sutton Drive. The best neighborhood in the world in my book. Over here, Tommy Joe and Betty Maker. Mrs. Maker still lives there. I see them on occasion. Great people. Joe's now a lawyer. Over here, the Readers. Big Billy Reader, Pam and Mary Ellen. You couldn't go a day by without realizing that Billy was out here building a car, building a hot rod, doing something. It's because of Billy, actually, I have my interest in cars and motorcycles, whether he knows it or not. What I do with motorcycles is a little spin-off of getting turned on and watching Billy do what he does back then. I forget who lived there, to be honest with you. Oh, no, that's not the Klein house. It's the next one. Over here, my buddy Tommy and Tammy Ferlano. Tommy was a great dude, still is. Quick little story, back then, in a while, Mr. Ferlano had a little shindig going on back there, and everybody was getting a little silly. He decided to have everybody start jumping over his fence. Not that one, it was a little 4-footer. So they decided to have Anton jump over the fence. Anton wasn't making it. Anton was a big dude. He just ran right through the entire fence, gate and all. Funny as hell. Funny as hell. Right here, where all this muck is, another thing that Ronnie Jones and Anton did. They made this our street hockey field. Again, with spray paint, goals, and, halfway marks, this, that, and the other thing. They did what they did. Right here, the Klein house, Mr. Klein. Another Stamford cop, and his son Kenny. Great, great people. Mr. Klein, another great cop. Over here, the Myers. Now, get to this house here. This here is the leader of the pack, or one of the leaders of the pack. It's Ronnie Jones's house. His father, again, coach of baseball. Ronnie was the one that got us into playing every sport, every time of the year, no matter what. Him and Antone got us traveling on our bicycles at a very young age, going all the way to New Canaan, Connecticut, which obviously you don't know about, but it was an extremely far ride for 12-year-old kids to be on a bicycle traveling 3 towns over just to go fishing. And our parents didn't really care about it because we were with Ronnie and Antone. I could go on for hours about growing up in Stamford, especially this neighborhood, but it's very memorable, and I'm sure it's very memorable to everybody that lived here. This house here is, well, actually right here is another place where Antone and Ronnie spray painted hash marks for a miniature football field. And somewhere over here is where Mr. Soares put up a basketball post so we could play basketball. This is the house here that Antone grew up in, directly behind my house. I've known Antone all my life up until recently. A few months ago, he passed. There was obviously Mr. and Mrs. Soares. She was a school teacher. She kept us all in line. Another thing about keeping in line. We used to go, Mrs. Wynn used to go around the street with a plastic bag making us pick up all our trash. You don't see that anymore. Right here is where Antone, Pammy, and Carla lived. Antone just passed recently. I did everything with Antone as a kid. And as we got older, he was in my wedding party, my 16th birthday party. My father asked me where I wanted to go. I told him I want to go to Colony Pizza. He goes, all right, let's go. I yelled down the hallway to get my brother Kevin. My father goes, what are you doing? Go get Antone. So me, Antone, and my father on my 16th birthday went to Colony Pizza. He died a few months ago. Antone did. I don't know. Oh, that's the chicks. John, Mary, and Cheryl. Sorry. They were also a part of everything here growing up on Sutton Drive. When Antone passed, and, Ronnie a few years before, I sort of had the idea because of what they did for us in the 70s as kids. It was almost like the Little Rascals, except 1,000 times better. We went everywhere. We did everything. Crazy-ass Ronnie Jones turned us on as we got older, driving to Vista Market, all the way to hell in New York, through New Canaan, to pick up, little beers here and there. I just don't think that anybody had a neighborhood like this, and it was because of Antone and Ronnie. I called the city of Stamford and asked them if they could have a little memorial sign put up for them guys, even if it's only for, a year, half a year. And they gave me some bullshit about getting partitions signed and this, that, and the other thing. There's really nobody left on the street that knows anybody from the 70s. And they kind of shot me down. So, it's not for me. It's not for any of my stupid glory or whatever. Could care less. It's basically for Antone and Ronnie and the people of Sutton Drive. So I went out myself and went to a sign company. And I just hope that maybe nobody even notices it except for a couple people that remember. So I went out and I put up a sign this morning of on Sutton Drive for Antone and Ronnie. And it's